In the fourth battle between General Isambard and Sufak, it will be a Chaos Civil War with the Warriors of Chaos led by General Isambard versus the Khorne Infantry Rush from Sufak. Now for an army build, a full front line of heavy metal Chaos Warriors versus General Isambard here. Supported by a bunch of marauders with great weapons and also a single mirror guard, they'll be protecting a Hell Cannon who is already bombarding the lines of the Khorne army. On the flanks, a couple Marauders Horsemasters here, providing skirmishing fire and also valuable mobility in case they need to screen out enemy units and also charge down the routing units. Personally, they are one of my favorite units among the roster. Prince Sigvald leading the army plus a single Chaos Sorcerer of Metal who has brought in quite a few debuffs, including Transmutation of Lead to take away enemies' melee attack, which the Khorne army relies so heavily on. There's also a Plague of Rust that can strip away enemy units' armor and boost up your own non-armor piercing units' damage. This includes Prince Sigvald himself, the Chaos Warriors, and also the Marauder Horsemasters. Now for the Khorne army led by Sufak, a full front line of Marauders of Khorne, dual weapons and regular variant, going for a infantry rush. While in the skies, Valkia the Bloody leading the army, dropping in a Sleipnir onto the Chaos Warriors, doing some nice damage overall. And at the back, a single Minotaurs of Khorne with great weapons and a single Chaos Warriors of Khorne with halberds to support with some anti-large armor piercing damage. At the same time, there are some Chaos Warhounds wrapping all the way around the flanks, trying to hit up the rear of the Warriors of Chaos formations. The Chaos Warhounds on this side are not quite able to advance just yet, as the Micro are focusing on the left flank. The Minotaurs will be pushing through the gaps, but now slightly tied down by the Chaos Warriors, they will turn around and start hacking down these heavy tin cans with their great axes. While the cultists are just staying out of the fight here, as he does not want to handle Prince Sigvald the Magnificent in the melee combat. At the back, a little bit of a slip up from General Isambard here, allowing the Warhounds to catch these Hell Cannons unprotected. But then again, there's not a lot of mobility at the back after the Chaos Warhounds wrap around. After disabling the artillery, the Warhounds will be charging straight into the rear of the Marauders with great weapons, a great choice for rear charging, but then again, they are also mixed in with a bunch of Chaos Warriors, and the heavy tin cans are not that prone to rear charging damage. Instead, the bunched up Warhounds will be perfect for a bombardment, and even straight up shattered by a single Searing Doom. Khorne losing a valuable mobility in the early game. And the back here, Valkia the Bloody trying to screen away the Marauder Horsemasters, but unfortunately, she does not have the greatest splash attack and her damage output against the Horsemasters is rather limited. Instead, she is shot point blank by all those javelins, taking some noticeable damage, even with her heavy armor. On the flanks here, there are some Marauders of Khorne and the single Exalted Hero of Khorne pushing through the flank, but instead I think they should be wrapping around to consolidate this flank and collapse all these Warriors of Chaos units. Valkia at the back isn't in that much of an urgent danger, but the front line here, a lot of Khorne resources are being tied down. They need to free up their left flank so that they can start pushing the right once more. But it seems that Sufak would not be concentrating the forces in the front line, but instead sending some of these Marauders to screen away the enemy Horsemasters for Valkia. Possibly because of Prince Sigvald so close to Valkia, but then again, Footlord doing Footlord things, Prince Sigvald being blocked by his own Horsemasters, he was unable to make contact with Valkia. Not too far away, the Hell Cannons have rearmed their artillery, now firing once again, although they don't have the greatest line of sight with the trees blocking their way. At the same time, more and more Khorne units are peeling off away from the front line, trying to reinforce Valkia against Sigvald. This forces the Horsemasters to back away from the Khorne melee units. However, that's not exactly a bad choice because the Marauders simply lack that armor to mitigate the damage from their javelins. Valkia though will be escaping from this engagement, allowing the Exalted Hero of Khorne to charge straight into Prince Sigvald the Magnificent alongside with some support from the Minotaurs with great weapons. The thing is, Prince Sigvald is a foot lord, so he doesn't actually mind being surrounded by monsters if the monsters doesn't have the greatest weapon strength to nuke him down. For example, over here, due to all those Marauders occupying the space around him, there are only 2 or 3 Minotaurs that can actually make contact with Sigvald. And Prince Sigvald is just taking minimal damage from all this engagement, even with all the armor piercing, especially with the Transmutation of Lead debuffing all the Khorne units' melee attack in the vicinity. This allows all the Chaos units to sit there grinding out enemy units for a little longer. In the front line, some Bloodletters are summoned to surround the Mirror Guard. Their magical anti-infantry armor-piercing damage is very effective against the heavily armored Chaos Warriors, but the immune to psychology of the Mirror Guard helps them hold their leadership together, ignoring that fear trait on the Bloodletters. Now back to the blob around Sigvald, it is really doing minimal damage to Prince Sigvald while they themselves have been taking massive casualties from Searing Doom bombardment, from the javelins, from the Horsemasters. Some of the shielded marauders really should be peeling off and pressure the Horsemasters at the back. Right now, most of them are just standing around idly, unable to get into contact with enemy units, allowing enemy skirmishers to freely opening fire into their unshielded rear. Now, good news for Khorne is that most of the Horsemasters, after firing for the entire time, are running low on ammo, unable to fire much longer. But the bad news is that they can go straight into melee. These Horsemasters, having 26 attack and defense, actually can be decent on the charge against the lightly armored Marauders of Khorne, doing some nice impact damage with their 30 charge bonus. On top of that, Prince Sigvald and the Chaos Warriors are still fighting, and the Marauders of Khorne, after taking substantial damage and being swarmed by a whole lot of Horsemasters, their leadership will be quickly tanking under that sharp spike of damage. On the other side here, Khorne seems to be taking a lead in terms of the fight here, having a whole lot more Marauders than the Chaos Warriors, but a single rear charge from the Horsemasters would do noticeable damage to them, which seems to be what's going to happen next. The battlefield is basically now split into two parts. On one side, the Horsemasters will be cycle-charging the anvil formed by Chaos Warriors and Prince Sigvald himself, trying to work down the Marauders as Prince Sigvald duels the Exalted Hero using those armor debuffs from the Plague of Rust. While over here, a nice charge from the Marauder Horsemasters doing great impact damage onto the Marauders of Khorne. And you can see here, the Marauders, due to their lack of armor and being hit by a massive rear charge, is taking massive shock damage. In contrast to the stabilizing Chaos Warriors, the Khorne infantry leadership will be dropping down to the negatives. Suddenly, this whole engagement has been reversed as the Khorne army lost all their infantry support here, leaving only the single entities fighting off against the Chaos Warriors and the Horsemasters. That leaves the only pocket of Khorne resistance inside the forest with their Exalted Hero and their Marauders with dual weapons. Now, the only reason the Exalted Hero is still standing against Prince Sigvald, who is a much better duelist and has much better anti-armor capacity, is because he has healing himself. Being the only character in multiplayer who has access to Potion of Toughness, he was able to heal up part of his HP and buff up his armor and melee defense for a short period of time. Though the constant Plague of Rust is a problem, especially on fighting Prince Sigvald the Magnificent, who can activate his weapon Sliver Slash, providing armor sundering and further boosting his own damage. And sadly, the only unit that can challenge Sigvald is still fighting some Chaos Warriors on the far side. This made the situation in the forest even more dire as their infantry and character is slowly being worked down by the heavy armor of the Chaos Warriors and Prince Sigvald himself. If we fast forward, we can see that the Exalted Hero of Khorne will be quickly routed by Prince Sigvald with a few big hits. He'll be chased off by the Horsemasters as Valkyria is still too distracted by the Chaos Warriors, unable to assist him. At this point, it is basically the reenactment of the Valkyria trailer plus a Prince Sigvald as a bonus. Valkyria might have handled the Marauders, but with Prince Sigvald in the mix, yeah, she stands no chance at all. First of all, GG to both players here. General Eisenbart securing a second victory in the 4th game of the series, successfully dragging the best of 5 into a 5th game. Now for the army performances here, we have a bunch of Marauder Horsemasters being very effective in combat. Their multi-function role on battlefield as a skirmishing cavalry and a secondary light cavalry makes them a very cost-efficient unit. They can chuck javelins to do damage and then charge in once they ran out of ammo, and that is exactly what they did. While the Chaos Warriors will act as a heavy anchor, pinning down enemies in place and slowly but steadily grind them down. As for the single entities here, well, Hell Cannon is kind of a single entity. Didn't really do that much damage due to a problematic targeting algorithm, and the Chaos Sorcerer mostly there for debuffs with Transmutation of Lead and Plague of Rust. Did some minor damage with the Searing Doom, but that's about it. While Prince Sigvald, as always, a powerful melee combatant with the powerful tenacity of self-regeneration, plus his amazing combat stats makes him a very deadly combat lord in melee. As for the Khorne army led by Sufak, the light infantry really didn't accomplish much here. Most of them didn't earn back their value, same goes for the Warhounds. Unfortunately, they just didn't really have that many good targets other than the Hell Cannons. While the single entities here didn't really do too much as well due to their lack of armor piercing, the Exalted Hero being beaten up by Prince Sigvald with Silver Slash, even with the healing from the Potion of Toughness. Armor piercing units, Chaos Warriors of Khorne getting shot and bombarded, so not a lot of value either. the Minotaurs have spent way too much time stuck on Prince Sigvald when they could have recharged the Chaos Warriors to free up more of the Marauder infantry as extra bodies to tie down enemy units and perhaps pressure them. So unfortunately, a little misuse on the Minotaurs right there. Valkia the Bloody also didn't really have any good engagement. Her best role is probably to hunt down monsters and not fighting against melee dedicated lords like Prince Sigvald, and flying around, the lack of splash damage also didn't help her much in dealing with the Chaos Warriors and the Marauder Horse Masters, so her damage output was rather limited. And that's it for this battle. We'll be moving on to a quick summary of the 5th game to check out who is the real winner of this best of 5 series between General Isambard and Sufak. The 5th game would be General Isambard's Greenskin versus Warriors of Chaos from Sufak. It started quite well for General Isambard. His skirmishing cavalry managed to outrun the Hellstriders by shooting them with poison missiles. The overcommitted Hellstriders were beaten back. Also, the frontline Black Orcs emerged victorious against the Chaos frontline. Even the missile troops managed to dish out massive damage against the Chaos Sorcerer Lord. But unfortunately, the Greenskin front line is too narrow, with the first line of defense only having 5 melee infantry troops and then a couple other melee infantry at the back. That's not even close to enough for dealing with all those Chaos infantry and mobility. All the Greenskin missiles got compromised, and to make things worse, Warsack got surrounded by Chaos Warriors. Combined with the constant spirit leeches from the Chaos Sorcerer Lord, Warsack was unfortunately finished off. With his Lord and mobility eliminated, General Isambard is left with some Black Orcs and a single Black Orc Big Boss. This time he will be the one falling victim to the Chaos Marauder horses. The Black Orcs will be overwhelmed by a combination of Searing Doom and horses' rear charges. Knowing that a single Black Orc Big Boss cannot turn the tide, General Isambard will be conceding this game. And that is the final game of the series, with Sufak emerging victorious 3-2 against General Isambard. He managed to beat back the Wood Elf full vanguard rush from General Isambard in the first game, and then General Isambard pulling back one victory with his Ushaptis holding back the Greenskins' advance. Things got into an intense back and forth afterwards, with Sufak winning the Dark Elf engagement. His Dreadlord barely avoided being sniped out by Morathi, while his missile troops sniped out Morathi instead. Then General Isambard immediately clawed back another victory using the Warriors of Chaos, their Horse Masters being one of the best skirmishing cavalry. Their mixture of melee power and skirmishing range fire successfully broke the Marauder infantry rush of the Khorne army brought in by Sufak. And in the final game, once again, it is the Warriors of Chaos gaining an upper hand. General Isambard's Greenskins held a small advantage in the early game, but once their missiles got compromised, being overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of the Warriors of Chaos units. The Greenskin missile formation started to fall apart, especially with Warsack being sniped out by the Spirit Leeches. This seals the final victory for Sufak in this best of 5, concluding the entire series. Big thanks to Sufak and General Isambard for all these fun replays. Viewers, I hope you enjoy all these battles, and if you do, be sure to subscribe to the channel as I'll be casting even more battles from the BBB Season 1 tournament. That's it for today, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich, signing out.